Awarangi set us up with a rock, and I'm going to get us ready to roll. So an outline of mine, I'm going to talk about our outcomes roadmap, which is sort of our policy on our outcomes management. I'm going to talk about our outcomes measurement system, that's Whanau Tahi, and I'm just going to give you some insight and a bit of a dive into some of our outcomes measurement reporting, looking at our data and some of the reporting that we do. In terms of our outcomes roadmap, so this is our policy on outcomes management. Now, Awarangi's already touched on our international experts on outcomes measurement, Social Ventures Australia. So this was co-designed with them, as well as our whanau partners on the ground around the motu. And it provides us with a set of tools and processes to firstly, one, prove that we're having the impact that we intend to have, and secondly, and probably most importantly, improve outcomes for whanau. So our outcomes framework, there's three components to it, or three action areas. The first one is our outcome domains, outcomes and outcome indicators. The second is our logic models, and the third is our measurement and assessment tools. We've also got a whanau outcomes menu that we're sort of developing with our whanau partners, and that's sort of looking at within each of those domains, what are the different outcome areas that we can sort of drill down on. And obviously there's our whanau indicators of success. So these are not indicators that we're prescribing to measure against. So our policy is permissive, as Awarangi's already mentioned. It's an indicator that our providers will discuss with whanau as a measure of their success towards the outcomes or change that they want to experience. And just drilling down into that, we are looking at utilising 4 tools. So the first tool we're just calling Tool A. It's a consistent engagement planning and assessment tool. And so what we're going to do at TPM is we've developed an overarching framework. We'll also develop a tool that our whanau partners can use. However, we acknowledge that a lot of the mahi's already gone on within the regions, that they've developed their own assessment tools and processes and policies and things like that. So it's about them mapping that up to our overarching assessment framework. Tool B is a flexible outcomes reporting tool. So that's drawing on the outcomes menu, and I'll touch on all of these in the following slides. So it's looking at all the different outcome areas within each of those outcome domains. If whanau are prioritising an outcome within that area, it's measuring the change over time against each of those outcome areas. Tool C and D are just whanau surveys and a partner survey. In terms of our outcomes measurement tool A, so we've got our 6 domains: knowledge, health, relationships, participation in the community, engagement in Te Ao Māori, and whanau standards of living. And so within each of these 6 domains, we've sort of fleshed out the various outcome areas. And as per all our tools and our approach, we always look at consulting with all our lead partners and providers around Te Ao Māori. So this always goes out, and this is going to be refined over time as well. So as more whanau needs are identified, we might look at adding other areas as our providers engage with whanau on the ground and help support them. So this is just an example of how the tool will work. So you've got the 6 different outcome domains, the different outcome areas, and then whanau can sort of self-report or report where they're at across each of those domains and each of those areas. And so we can do a baseline, a follow-up, and see how they're progressing over time. I won't go into the detail of all the different outcome areas, but you can sort of see how it tracks across the 6 domains. And obviously the scoring across each of those levels as well. And then of course we've got the ability to consolidate it up to see the overall score for whanau across all the wellbeing domains. And so this is just an example of one of the tools that a provider in Auckland are using to whanau Waipareta. So these are the Mataora snapshot. And so they've got their own domains that they're using. I think there's actually an old version. I know there's a new version that's out now. But this is an example of how they can map up to our high level outcome domains across the TPM reporting framework. And Te Tihi will have their own sort of assessment and protocols, and Te Kohau and Waikato and things like that. In terms of our tool B, so this is our flexible outcomes reporting tool, and so this is drawing on an outcomes menu. So what we're trying to do at TPM is look at all the common outcomes that whanau are prioritising and develop a sort of a menu for that. There'll always be an opportunity for an other with a free text field, and what that means is that whanau can prioritise what they want, and then it's about mapping it up to one of those outcome areas. If one of those outcome areas are not relevant, then our providers have the ability to create their own outcome area, and then over time we can look at analysing all those new areas and then fleshing out and building out the outcomes menu. So in this example, I'll just go through the first one. The priority outcome for our whānau is that they want to eat healthier kai more regularly and become more active. And so the outcome area that we're mapping it to is improved diet and healthier lifestyles. The domain, the high-level outcome domain, is whānau health, and these are the possible indicators that we can use. So we're also looking at developing a set of indicators in line with this outcomes menu, and obviously informed by our whānau ora partners. And over time, that's just going to get built out so we can have a library of indicators that map up to whānau priorities and whānau outcomes based on what they're wanting to achieve on the ground. So we're not prescribing, as Awarangi said earlier, the measurements that we want our whānau ora partners to report against. We're saying, hey, you need to have some sort of indicator to measure the change over time. That indicator is up to you and the whānau to agree on as a measure of success for the whānau. So tool C, the tool C is the whānau survey. So this is getting the assurance, I guess, that our services are to a quality level or to a high standard for our whānau, and just to ensure that we're enhancing our whānau's capabilities in achieving their outcomes. Tool D, so this is more at the partner level. So this is surveying all the partners within the Collective Impact Initiative, and just identifying whether they're all working together to build their capabilities in supporting whānau, particularly under the Collective Impact Initiative. So that was sort of the overarching policy and sort of our roadmap for rolling out all the theory and strategy and model that Awarangi talked to. And so now I'll just dive into is our outcomes measurement system. So the system that TPM have endorsed is Whanau Tahi. And so when we were establishing TPM, we had Deloitte working with us to firstly establish Te Paumatakana, the entity, and also help develop a model, and also looking at internationally and nationally IT systems that we should use for commissioning for outcomes. And so their recommendation was to use Whanau Tahi, which was already in play. Some of the reasons that we went with that was that we already had 80% of our lead partners using the system. So this is our lead partners around the North Island. And within the collectives, over 50% of those organisations were already using the system as well. So that there, plus the endorsement by Deloitte, was a bit of a no-brainer. But what we need to consider is the requirements for our system regarding whānau ora outcomes measurement. And so we needed to acknowledge that it wasn't only going to be whānau ora funding that we're going to achieve outcomes for whānau. It was going to be multiple agencies across multiple sectors and things like that. And so Whanau Tahi currently manages 140 different services across 20 funders, and that's across health, education, social services and justice. We also needed a system in the same vein that was going to support multiple outcomes frameworks across, because different funders and different sectors have different requirements in that regard, and so it currently supports multiple outcome frameworks, multiple reporting frameworks within the system. Most importantly, we needed a system that was going to support our frontline kaimahi on the ground to support their practice into achieving outcomes for whānau. So Whanau Tahi provides them with in-time, on-time information, dashboards, reporting to help support their practice on the ground. And lastly, from a TPM perspective, we needed a system that was going to provide a data warehouse with some data analytics capabilities. And Awarangi's spoken to this earlier regarding how we're collecting that information within the warehouse, and it enables us longer term to start looking at comparing with national data, and once the IDI gets opened up and things like that, there's opportunities there as well. So we've got, as Awarangi mentioned, 13 collective impact initiatives around the North Island, and they're all collecting transactional, outcomes-based, whānau-centric data about what is being achieved for whānau and what services are achieving that. So that's our whānau ora partners that are collecting this really rich data that allows us to report their whānau progress and how they're achieving their outcomes. So we can obviously report our whānau engagement numbers, so our statistics at the high level, the number of whānau we're engaging with, number of whānau members. We can look at the demographic breakdown of them, ethnicity, iwi, etc. So all that information is being collected on the ground by our providers. Now, because our whānau order partners are collecting that transactional outcomes-based data, we can go one step further and look at the actual whānau situation, look at all the interventions that were delivered to that whānau, look at the outcomes that were being achieved from those interventions, and then look at the longer term impact. So this is sort of a logic model. So we can look at the whānau situation. So we had a single mother. She was living in a one-bedroom flat. It was dirty, it was dusty. She was disengaged from society. She had low self-esteem, low confidence. She had a 3-year-old son with asthma, and he wasn't eating his fruit and veggies. She had her driver's license, her learner's driver's license, so she was constantly incurring fines. Obviously that put her in a high level of stress situation, and her mental well-being wasn't well either. And she wanted to complete a course and enter the workforce. So that was sort of the whānau situation. So all that information was collected by our whānau order partner. We can then look at all the activities or the outputs that were delivered through the intervention. So there was a whānau order assessment completed. We developed a plan, or they developed a plan and goals. We talked about the ongoing cleaning and maintenance of the flat and the health benefits and things like that, making sure there's a healthy home environment. We got the kid eating fruit and veggies, and there's some strategies behind that. She completed a driving course and obtained her restricted licence. And she enrolled in the course. She actually got some part-time work, and she started attending some interviews as well. So this is the kaiarihi that was supporting the whānau to achieve these things, or to complete these things. And so we know the inputs into these activities or these interventions. So there's the kaiarihi time, so there's 18 hours of kaiarihi resource. There was a driving course and the licence. There was public transport. So while she was getting her licence and to attend her courses and things like that, they just sort of sorted it out with one of those hop cards, so she wasn't driving illegally. And there was some home essentials and clothing purchased as well. And so these were some of the outcomes that the whānau reported. So with Whanau Direct, there's a bit of a check-in process where you sort of review the intervention and the expected results and things like that. So she provided, or she reported that there was an improvement in her self-confidence. She improved her engagement in society. There was improved health of the home. There was improvement in asthma management. There was improvement in the diet of her child. There's obviously improvement in her transport options, so she's now driving legally and safe. There was a reduction in her stress. She improved her skills by going on the program, and she increased her employment opportunities through that process as well. And so if we look at the higher level outcomes, she improved her participation in the community, improvement in health, standards of living, and improved knowledge. Now, because we've got all that information, all that's recorded by our whānau order partners, what we can then look at doing is a social return on investment type analysis. And so that's looking at the value that we've created, or that our whānau order partners on the ground have created through their activities. What we need for that is looking at what the changes for whānau. We need to look at putting some financial proxies on each of those outcomes, so that's valuing each of those outcomes with a dollar amount. There's a few principles that we need to consider when you do an SRI. You need to think what would have happened anyway. There's other factors that would have contributed to those outcomes. That's the attribution contribution. So the first part of it, and it's a cost-benefit analysis really, so we know the cost because we're collecting all this information in our system at this level. We know all the activities or the intervention that went into that whānau. So we can cost that up. So that's looking at the 18 hours, the driving course, the licence, everything that went into the intervention. So we can cost that up as $1,860. Then what we need to look at is valuing each of our outcomes. There's a bit of a process that we've done with that as well. So I'll just take you through this example. So the first one was improvement in her self-confidence. So we valued that at $200. However, that's probably really low, and everyone knows that's really low as well. But what we've done, we've taken a prudent approach, and we used the value of the clothing that our kaiarihi went and purchased from Kmart for the whānau. So they went out and got about 20 different items. So there's not one expensive item, there's 20 different items just to give us some self-confidence and re-engage with the community again. So I think we can consider that as quite low, but we've taken a prudent approach to value that. The improvement in the health of the home. So what we've done there is the child was actually he was asthmatic and obviously heading towards emergency rooms and things like that. So the house was really dusty and damp and dirty, and so there was definitely on the trajectory to head to A&E. And so what we've done there is we've valued a visit to the Waitakere Hospital, which is on their website. That starts at $867 as soon as you go through the door. From memory, it goes up to $1,500. If it's an overnight stay, it doubles. So we've taken the low end scale to value that. For the improvement in diet, what we've used is just a 1 hour session with a dietitian or a nutritionist. So the improvement in diet, and the strategy that they used there was they purchased one of those Nutri-Ninja type $60 bullet things, and it actually worked. It allowed the mum to give their child some fruit and veggies through that process there. So there's just a $60 intervention to help improve their diet on that one. Now the improvement in transport, so every time she was getting pulled over by the police, there was a $400 fine instantly. Then obviously that leads to a court appearance, which is $1,000 as soon as you get through the door. So through this intervention, they've said, well, we've supported her to get her licence. In the meantime, she's been travelling on safe, legal public transport, and we've prevented her from getting any more fines and having to go to court. In terms of the reduction in stress, we value that at $600, and what that is just a average mental health program. So we've looked at an average mental health program, the cost of that in terms of the mental health worker and things like that. The last one, improvement in skills. So she actually attended a healthcare assistant course, and it was actually a free course. But what we've done in terms of the value it, we've looked at online we looked online at similar courses, and we've taken the low end scale of that. So they range from $1,600 to $3,200, a healthcare assistant type course. So we've used that as the value for that outcome. In terms of the increase in employment, she's actually a singer, and because she got these new clothes, she had some self-confidence to go out into the community again. She got some part-time work, which allowed her to pick up some gigs singing and things like that. So, and that was just over a 1 month, 4 week period. So the incremental income was $400, and so we just valued that as that. So if we look at all those, the sum of all those values, that's $5,200. But with our SROI principles, we need to just reduce that through the attribution, contribution, acknowledge other factors and things like that. So before that, we had a 2.8 to 1. And all that means is that for every dollar invested in this intervention, there's $2.8 of social value created. But what we're going to do is we're going to reduce that by 70%. That gives us a value of 3,652 from a input of 1,860. And that still leaves us with a 2 to 1 SROI. And obviously our system is Whanau Tahi, so I recommend going and have a look at that as well. It's a very good system, and version 5 coming out is going to be very exciting. Kia ora. Talking about our home, land and sea. Talking about our home, land and sea. Talking about our